Welcome to the Multifamily Zone, where business meets family. We explore what the entrepreneur life looks like from the family perspective. Now here are your hosts, Julia and Gino Barbaro.
Hi, everyone. This is Julia Barbaro, one of the hosts of the Multifamily Zone podcast. I'm here with my co-host, my husband, and the co-founder to Jake and Gino, Gino Barbaro. Hey, Gino.
Hi, Julia. How's it going?
Good.
This is our very first podcast, our very first show. If you don't know Jake and Gino, I am Gino Barbaro. I'm one of the co-founders of Jake and Gino, and I'm here with my wife, Julia. She is the mother of 6 homeschooled children. I would say that we homeschool, but then that means I'm doing some of the work, and that's not what's happening. She's homeschooling 6 kids. She's taking down the fort while I've been after and chasing our dream of becoming financially free and working in the real estate space. And I credit a lot of my success to having my wife stay home and take care of the household. And it's been a really amazing thing for me because I've been able to focus on my business and I've been able to become financially free a lot quicker. And with that, reaching my sole purpose and having the work-life balance, where to me, there's no such thing as a work-life balance. If you love your work, when you come home, you're going to be more energized, you're going to be more present. And in this podcast and all our podcasts going forward, we want to discuss and really talk about what a relationship between 2 spouses are, how we can both support ourselves, whether we're both working or not. My wife was a stay-at-home mom, and now she's got her own little coaching practice going on. Also, she's helping others. So how does that work? When she's doing a coaching call, how can I be present for her? Like I failed on Saturday. I had a call and she had a little baby screaming while she's doing a coaching call, the door's in, and it's tough. I wasn't there because I was doing another call. So maybe I have to plan my calls around her, think of being more present for her. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to help other spouses out to better their relationships and to better their lives.
Yeah. No, I'm excited too because I get a lot of questions from the Jake and Gino community as far as, how do I work with my spouse or how can I have them support me in the real estate business, even if they're not interested? Because as I told you before, I'm not really interested in real estate, but I am interested in the whole community that Jake and Gino has formed because there's something about them that is very genuine. And I see that now that I know them. And I kind of want to share that with everybody. Maybe encourage people to bring their spouses along just to meet the community. They might have a different view of them as well.
So in this podcast, what we really want to focus on, and I want to credit Chris Jackson, one of our coaches, for the title of it, is how to avoid stink eye from your spouse and be more engaged. Right. So what is the stink eye, Julia?
Well, to me, when you first said that, it made me laugh because the thought I had was when, we were going out as a family, we were together, whether it was having dinner or whatever, the phone rang and my husband would look at it, pick it up and walk away. And that would irritate me because, how can I separate the family life with work? And it really did irritate me for years. And I have to be honest. But for me, what it helped was to say, okay, let me talk with you. Because that's one of the things that we forget too, especially in just being married, is that we can have a conversation. This is bothering me. Let's talk about it and let's be open about it. I want to trust that you're going to only answer the phone during a family, during something that, we're both agreeing on, but whether it's dinner or whatever, only answer the phone if it's important at that moment. If it's work hours, of course, it's different. But I have to be able to trust that he's only going to answer it when it's important. And because I don't want him to lose out on a deal or miss out on a big opportunity because he promised that he wouldn't answer the phone, because that wouldn't be fair either.
So I'll give you a couple of tips. The first way to get away from that spousal stink eye is not to look at your spouse when you pick up the phone, right? I tried to do that, but you know what?
But it's still there.
It lags after the call is off. It ruins the moment. And really, I was stuck in an unfortunate situation 3, 4, 5 years ago. I was working at the restaurant. I'd come home and we'd have dinner. And it was hard because I was working 60 hours a week and I needed to answer phone calls because I was working multiple hours. And I told my wife, listen, it's going to be tough for a couple of years because I really have a vision of leaving New York. I have a vision of getting out of there. The only way I can do that is by working hard. And people go back to the 4-hour work week and say, yeah, work 4 hours. Yes, maybe after you've put in the time. But I was at that point that I needed to put in the time. And I made it clear to my wife what our goals were. It wasn't just my goal of making more money. It was my goal of having a better lifestyle. My lifestyle was terrible. So that's one of the ways.
When you say I was trying to make my goals, remember that it's we were trying to make the goals, and I'm not trying to take away from that, but I just want to be clear that we decided this together in a sense where you were going to be working a lot of different hours than you normally work, and that was okay. And I think it's good. It's important to be on the same page, and to be on the same page, you really need to communicate, and that's what another of our podcasts will definitely be on solely is communication, because that is super important. To be on the page that, okay, you're going to be working extra hours and I'm not going to give you a hard time for it because I know that that you're going to be working smart. You're not going to be taking calls that you don't need to at those hours.
So in the beginning, I was working hard, but one thing I would do is when we had dinner or breakfast or lunch together, I would not answer the phone, and I still don't do that. I'll put it on vibrate. I'll get rid of it. My kids will hear it beeping and they'll run to it. I'm like, no, we're not picking the phone up. But I told her in the beginning, if Jake calls, if my other partner Mike calls, if my brother Mark, who ran the restaurant at the time, calls, there were certain people that they called and I knew it was important, I would pick it up. That was my parameters. If it was anybody else, I would let it go unless I was doing a refinance or unless I had to have a talk with a broker. That was different. I would split it out. I would let her know, hey, we're going through this really big deal and there's a lot of stress. And brokers, it's really competitive. I need to talk to this broker. So I have to explain to her why I'm picking it up. It's a competitive real estate market.
So this is a communication issue right here, is that if I'm not knowing why you're picking up the phone, then of course I'm going to get irritated. So that's what I'm talking about, is even though I'm not in the business that he's doing, I still want to know what he's doing. I want to know, who you're talking to, what you're talking about, because I'm actually interested in that. Not that I'm interested in what you're talking about, but you know what I mean?
So talk about communication. How else can we communicate? I mean, I'm just trying to think back at the time when we were doing it. I was just stressed out. I was just trying to get as many phone calls as possible. Right. It was me, right? So like how you said, I don't want to break your role. It was hours. It was, but there was a lot of pressure on me to perform because, and unfortunately you had so much faith in me. They're like, yeah, I'll let you do it. So that's twofold. One is great. She has a lot of confidence in me, but the other one is, okay, I've got a lot of pressure now, so I have to work harder to achieve those goals. So what's the best way to communicate with your spouse?
Well, first of all, be honest with yourself. What's the reason why I'm really getting irritated in this? Let's say for the pick up the phone call. For me, I'm talking about myself. Why am I getting irritated? Is it really because you're leaving the table, or is there something behind that? Am I not feeling like I'm kind of included in your life in that sense? Because there's something always behind it. So we have to figure out what's the real reason that I'm getting irritated, because I was irritated years ago. I'm not anymore. So what's the difference? The difference to me is I know who you're talking to. I know the quality of people you're talking to. And that's what I'm talking about in the Jake and Gino community. And that's important to me.
And another thing that she knows, honestly, which I find to be really cool, is she knows that I'm really helping people now. Right. And it's not just about me, and it's not just about money, and it's bigger than that, that if I can get on the phone and help somebody out at that particular time when the student has a question and I need to be, and its time is of the essence, then I need to pick up the phone. Now, that being said, like I said, when we go out to dinner, the two of us, she's got her bag. I'll put my phone in her bag. I won't look at the phone for an hour and a half. So I don't have to pick up the phone. So do that. Leave the phone aside. Put it on vibrate. Don't get those notifications. You need to have some downtime, especially.
Yes, but also it's important too to remember that if you say, we're going to go out to dinner, great, but I might be expecting a call. They might be calling me, and it means that I'm, either going to get this deal or I have this investor or whatever it is. That's actually important. And I have to understand that. And I have to be aware of that and say, you know what? It's okay. Take the phone call. Go for 10 minutes. It's all right. I'm going to be fine sitting here. I'm okay with that.
Now that I know that, guys, my phone number is part of the thing that we want to do in this podcast every week is we want to answer questions from Jake and Gino community members. So I've got a bunch of questions here, and every week I'll be posting questions on our private Facebook group, and I want questions so we can answer exactly what is bothering the community and how we can help you out. So Neil's question, Neil Shope, thanks Neil. I run into quite a few people that want to invest but are being held back because their spouse views it as risky and or doesn't see the benefit to visiting the market. The face-to-face interactions is priceless for building relationships. Can you just do that over the phone, she says? Do you have suggestions on how we can open up the communication so that both spouses can be on the same page? I mean, I've spoken this with Julie a couple minutes ago, and ingenious. Tell your spouse to come to visit the market with you if it's possible. Let her come. I remember the first time I went to a market, I went with John Levine. John, if you're listening, I'll never forget this. I didn't even know John. I knew him for a couple months. He's like, can you come out to Cleveland with me? It was in August. So I told my wife, and she looked at me like I was crazy. Wow. What are you doing?
Who's this crazy guy you're going with? That's what I was thinking.
And why Cleveland?
Right.
So, and I'm in the same position that Neil is. If I was going by myself, I probably would have said, Julia, come with me.
Right.
Come see what I'm doing. It's a lot of fun. You're going to talk to brokers. You might go to lunch, but there's a lot of travel involved. I hate flying. It's unknown. I'm talking to people that I don't know. It's a little overwhelming. I don't know really what I'm doing, but come and share that experience with me and see how it is.
Because it's more than just what the real estate you're doing. I'm not, like I said, I'm not interested in real estate, but I'm interested in him. I'm interested in his experience and his the people he's with. I'm interested in that part of it. So even though I have nothing in common with the real estate part of it, the whole other experience, because there's so much more to learn than just that. You know, to be part of that is really important, especially in a marriage, because then we're kind of on the same page. And when a phone call comes in or something comes in and you know it's important, it's okay.
So from the real estate perspective, what you can say to your spouse is every business thrives, and especially real estate, through networking and through face-to-face negotiations and meeting somebody face-to-face. So I wouldn't say you've got to go visit every single market. The first thing you need to do is really choose that market and nail it down. And then after you're solely secure, then go visit the market. All you need is a day down there. Tops 2 days down in the market. Schedule out all those appointments, schedule out the time you need to do it. And really, that's what I would tell my spouse. You got to tell them, I need to get face-to-face with people. I need to build rapport with people. You know, you do business with people you like and trust. So that's what you have to tell your spouse. The way you engage with somebody, I went to open up a checking account with my son today at the bank. It was a great experience. This is exactly what I'm talking about. I sat down with my son. He's 16 years old. We start talking to the banker. He's a wealth banker, right, in Wells Fargo. It was awesome. You know why? We started talking about fishing and hunting, how with Goliath groupers at 600 pounds, and how he's going out to catch red snappers, and how he's got a boat in the Keys, and how his wife is from Houston. And I spent 30 minutes opening up a checking account, which could have taken 5. I could have done it online. But it was an amazing experience. And my son realized, hey, Dad, we really didn't do business, did we? We just learned about each other. And that's what these meetings are all about. It's about building rapport. So 6 months down the road, I'm going to call Wes up at Wells Fargo. I hope Wes is listening to this also, and say, Wes, thanks for the fishing. I'm going to go fishing. You know what? I know places in St. Augustine. I know 4 miles out. We were talking about spearfishing. How awesome is talking about spearfishing and seeing sharks and all that. So I think it's awesome. Just talk about the networking. And he says, you know, if they say it's too risky.
Yeah. So I want to say something about that, because he worked at the restaurant. Gino worked at the restaurant for our whole relationship. And it was always a struggle, whether it snowed or it was a slow time or whatever. So the restaurant was always risky, but it was very comfortable. That's what I knew, and that's what I was comfortable with. And the same with him. So any job is risky. Anything that you're doing is risky. But just because of the comfort level, you forget that. You forget you could lose it at any moment.
That's a great point, because why? All of a sudden we have HelloFresh. We have Whole Foods delivering. We have Groupon. I mean, we have Uber Eats delivering to you. You have multiple competition. You have labor costs going up. So you might think the restaurant is comfortable, and you know what? You're making a good salary and you're controlling your own ship, but really, ultimately, it's not. So, and even the same thing, if you think investing in the stock market is risky or it's not risky, it's all perceived on how much education. That's why you as a spouse who's doing the real estate work, whether it's you, Neil, out there, and I know, Neil, you're a good example. You've been working so hard over the last year, educating yourself. That's how you can tell your spouse.
That's why I noticed with Gino, I always noticed that he was educating himself. He was always learning. You know, he wasn't sitting back trying to gamble his money away. He was actually, you know, investing it smartly. And that's important for your spouse to see, is that you're not taking a risk, I would say. You're actually working smart towards something.
I love that, Julia. And what I would recommend to everybody, and I would tell everyone, and I would challenge everybody, Neil, have your wife come out, or any of the spouses come out to a money mixer. We have those money mixers where everyone in July. Come out to the October Live event. See what's going on. See how passionate people are. See when you get out of your comfort level or you're in your regular business, there are people out there doing it. You can connect with other people and learn. So get out of your comfort level. And I think everything in life is
because that's when I think everything changed for me. Is that one time that we went in the winter up in New York or New Jersey. That was the first time that you had a meetup that I went to. And that was a big eye opener for me because these people were so genuine.
So the funny thing about that was it took us 2.5 hours to get there. It was the week before Christmas. And I'm saying to myself, this thing is not starting out good. It's already, she's probably stressed. She's probably annoyed. But then when I got there, it was Jason Urusi's meetup. It was awesome. The people are great there. She met so many really cool people there. And I think just the people asking questions and me helping people out, I think changed her paradigm, changed her mind shift and said, wow, this is really cool.
Right. And that's something I normally wouldn't have done. I really wouldn't have. And if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have known. And it would have been a different outcome. For sure. So
he also asks, what are some great inquisitive questions that we can ask to dig down to the root of their concerns?
Well, I think one thing is you could talk to your spouse. Listen, how do you want me to do this? What if an important call comes in? Tell me what to do. And put it on them to say, okay, you know what? Yeah, I guess you're right. If it's important, you probably should take it. That's going to be important because you're kind of leaving them to answer the question.
I would agree. Yeah. I mean, be the coach. I mean, right now, what are some great inquisitive questions? Always ask empowering questions. The what. Don't ask why questions as much because they might sound a little, you might be a little judgmental. Why are you doing this? You know, what? Those what questions. So what should I do? Open-ended questions, and find out what the root cause is. Why they feel that real estate is risky. What I would say, what's the worst thing? What's the worst thing that can happen if we go down to the market for the day? I waste my time. I learned that's not a market for me. I might have spent a few $100s to fly down there, but what's the worst thing that can happen? I meet some brokers, I choose a deal, but I don't like that market. So that's the question that I would ask. Anything else on that? Well, no, I just want to go back on the trust, and it's important because I want to be able to trust that you're respecting me in my time, and I respect you as well. So it does go both ways, and that's important because a lot of the times people ask me, how do I get my spouse to be okay with what I'm doing? And they forget about how are you okay with what they're doing? It's both ways. You have to go both ways. Thanks, Julie. You're welcome. I trust you. I know. Next question is from Victoria. She got a few questions. I love these questions, Victoria. Thanks. What systems do you have in place to make sure you communicate effectively and avoid talking shop during family time? So when I hear the word systems, you're a business person. It sounds like you're talking business. So what do you do? I don't mind talking business if it's fun. If it's during the family time, and it's exciting and we can actually include the kids on it, I think it's fine. I have no problem with it. I actually enjoy that. I love to bring them in on the business part of our lives because they're part of it. So I actually don't mind it. When it gets to be only that, then that might be a problem. I don't really think I talk that often about real estate. I talk more about money and how to save money and how to be generous. I bring that more into it, but I'm not going to talk about cap rates. I'm not talking about, what we did, what we rehabbed. I don't mean that. That's not interesting to us. But if you're talking about a deal or something great that happened, that's interesting for us. So, I don't mind talking. I don't mind when you talk stuff like that at home. So one thing you could do is, hey, let's talk about business for 5 minutes. And the rest of the 30 minutes of the meal, let's just talk about family. So you can incorporate a little bit of it, but be aware, be conscious of it. Yes, exactly. And that's a system you can do is just be conscious of it. How do you encourage appreciation of each other and avoid comparing the time and effort you each contribute? That's a big one for Julie. I know she's smiling on this one, huh? I like to see how he has his wins, as he calls them. I love that. I actually encourage that, and I love to see him progress. Just in life in general. So, so I don't compare. I don't like to compare what he did and what I did. What do you think? Yeah, well, I mean, we never had the relationship where she did some of the work with the kids and then says, here are the kids, here you go. And I never did something in business where, I'm not doing the bills, you do the bills. We had our own designated routines. And when somebody slipped up or couldn't do it, the other person jumped in and did it. Well, I think we also see the strengths in each other too. So I know that you're strong in certain areas that I don't even need to go there. I'm not going to ask you to do some of the stuff that I do because
I know it will take you 3 days. It'll take me 5 minutes. So
But
and that's fine. It just,
But it's like a good relationship and a good partnership in business or in life. You don't really have to say, I did this, I did that.
Right.
We each do whatever we have to make it happen. That's why I love partnering with Jake,
Right.
because I've never once had him say to me, you know what, I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, I'm going to do it. And that's that. And then it's the same thing with my wife. Well, I can't make dinner time. Well, we'll figure something out.
Right.
And I never said to her, well, I'm doing more work than you. That never came to my mind, because we both are hard workers. Right. We both work really hard.
Well, we're both in it together. And I think that's for the marriage, but it's also in the partnership, like you said, with Jake. That's what I noticed from the beginning, is that how that was your view together from early on. And that's why I knew you were going to succeed, because you had that from the beginning.
Victoria, this is a difficult one for me, especially in the beginning when I had the restaurant. You asked, what boundaries do you have in place regarding your business life and family life? When I had the restaurant, my business and family life were intermingled. It was really weird, because I would always talk about the restaurant when I was with my brother and my mom. And it was stressful, because we were always thinking about money. When you lack money, that's what you focus on the most. And there's a couple of really cool things. I love the restaurant because my kids would work there. It was such a comfortable place. My wife would come once a week. She'd eat there. All the kids were working there. I met my wife there. So there's a lot of great memories. And I liked it from that perspective. But if we were careful, I mean, by the end of it, we wrote a cookbook. So we were like totally into it. We created Gino's Family. We were doing the videos. We were selling physical products. We have a company based around that. So our business and our life and personal life were intermingled. Together. And it was awesome. I really loved that.
And to be honest, I actually love that. I actually love to have it together, because it's just part of our family. And it's not, oh, now I have to go to work, or, for me anyway, it's part of our day. You know what I mean? It's part of the whole family. The whole family system.
Mm-hmm. She asks, what have you done to avoid a spousal relationship that feels more like employer-employee or coworkers? I don't know. You answer that question.
So I have to say that my husband has always been a boss. So he's just that type. Okay, it's time to go do that. So that's just how he's always been. And I was used to that, as far as, and I don't mean it in a disrespectful way. I just mean it is that's just he's always been the boss, especially at the restaurant. So he was used to saying to people, okay, it's time to do this, and the other thing. So I didn't take it as that. I took it as that's what he was used to. Does it make sense?
It does. I'm going to say this. I've been making payroll since 1994. Right. So I've been paying the bills for 25 years. And I don't mean in a bad way. I just mean that I have to get it done. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I was never doing it in a bossy or way. And with Julia, it was really funny. I just say to her, I commit, and then I figure it out. I think Julia likes to take it a little bit easier. And then I'll just throw out an email, and she'll be like, I just send it out. I'll do the same thing to Josh. And I just want to do it, commit to it, and then I'll figure it out.
But I think that's a good thing. I'm trying to get it. I think that's a good thing. And I'm okay with that, because otherwise I'll maybe put it off a little too long, so so that's a strength that you have. And one of my weaknesses is maybe to put it off. So it actually works out very well with each other. And I don't take things personally. If it's a business thing and he's like, I don't like the way this looks. Can you redo it? I'm not going to sit back and I'm not doing that anymore. Sorry, but okay, you don't like the way it looks. How do you like what it looks like? Show me what you like. Okay, yep, let's redo it. It's okay. I'm not going to take everything you say personally in the business world, because we could separate that. When we're home, and if he says that about dinner, I don't like this food, you might take that person.
It hasn't happened yet. You know why? Because I don't want to cook, and whatever she cooks is great. I love everything. I mean, even though it really is, but that's the strength. So I never did it in a bad way.
No, it wasn't bad, but that's the way you come across. And I think that's okay, because I don't take it personally. I just know that's just the way you speak, and that's okay. I
want to have some action steps. I'll give some of my action steps first, and then I'll let you give yours, and then we'll wrap it up. Mm-hmm. What I encourage a lot of the spouses to do is to read the book Killing Sacred Cows. Both sets of spouses, both partners, read that book Killing Sacred Cows by Garrett Gunderson. It'll open up your mind, and you'll be like, wow. What I'm thinking is normally not risky, really is risky. Garrett in the book talks about 401ks, how they're a scam. It talks about the abundance mindset and the scarcity mindset. And it talks about you trying to achieve and hit your sole purpose in life. And I think a lot of that will open up your minds into saying, you know what? there is risk, but maybe if we're going towards something that's really great, maybe that's okay to take that little bit of risk. So I would encourage everyone to read Killing Sacred Cows and start reading with your partner and start adopting that abundance mindset. I love the book. It really helped me out a lot. Now, as far as the spousal stink eye, you're going to get it, but let's be mindful that let's not pick up the phone unless we ultimately have to. Let's communicate with our, I'm going to say wives, I'm communicating with my wife. So I'm going to communicate with my wife by telling her, it's really important that I pick up the phone if it's Jake or Mike. If it's anybody else, I'll let it go to voicemail. We're going through a tough deal right now. We're closing, for instance, on a refi. I need to get these documents in because I might have to overnight something tomorrow. And it happens all the time. We've been through multiple, I've been on vacation where I've had to do papers and I said, Julie, this is a big refi. I can't let my partners down. And I have partners. So that's part of the pitch that I give to her is I really can't let my partners down. I've got to pick this call up because you don't know what it's about. And if it's not important, I'll get off the phone immediately. So that's where I think the spousal stink eye and the engaging and being more engaged. So let me leave with this also, work-life balance. If you love your work or you love what you're doing, you're going to be more balanced at home. You're going to want to be at home. You're going to want to spend time with the kids. You're going to want to spend more time with your wife. You're going to love spending more time with them. You're not going to be the grumpy Gino who comes home from the restaurant because he's tired and he's not engaged at work. And now I can work just as many hours and I have a great work-life balance, but I love to be home.
Yeah. So I just encourage the communication between the spouses as far as, saying to your spouse in this situation, my husband, listen, I'm going to trust that you're only going to answer that phone when it's important during the time that we have together. And from there, when he does answer the phone, instead of saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe he just answered the phone, I'm going to instead think, wow, that must be a really important phone call. I want to know about it. Tell me about it. And that's how you have to change your mindset. And because otherwise we're going to just live miserably and irritated at each other, which doesn't turn out very well. So if we can just change that and maybe open the communication and actually ask the questions, tell me what I can do instead. I want to hear from you. Instead of saying this is what I'm going to do, I want you to tell me, because otherwise it's me telling you.
So that's one of the things. The podcast is almost over. I'm looking outside and I'm saying to myself, maybe me and my wife can sneak out for 15 minutes and go to the beach without telling the kids. So the work-life balance, we're going to get done with it, but let's communicate. Let's have fun together. Let's share time together. That's what real estate has allowed me to do. Mm-hmm. Now, what I want you all to do is, if you have any questions down below in the show notes, leave the questions down below in the show notes. We'd love to answer back the questions. We can put them on a next podcast that we do. I want to thank Neil and Victoria for those awesome questions. I'm going to be posting questions for our next show. The next show we're going to be doing is about communication. Any parting words, Jewel?
No, I just keep bringing your spouse to any kind of meetups or just meeting the community, because it really does make a difference, and just be part of the lives together.
She was never a salesperson. What a great sales pitch for Jake and Gino. Truly, I mean, you
was
guys,
genuine.
Yes,
I'm not, yeah.
You guys will love being around the Jake and Gino community. I mean, there's so many amazing people, and that's who we want to gravitate towards. We want to gravitate towards families and people who are engaged, and people who want to help out others, and we want to propagate that abundance mindset. So we want to thank you all for being on the show and listening to the show. And we hope we've given you a lot of value. Please leave those comments down below, and we'll see you all next week.
Sounds good. Thanks, Gino.
Thanks, everybody.